Welcome. Hopefully you can all hear. For your benefit, we are recording this meeting. Okay, so as I think you all know, my name is Susie Green. I have the great privilege of being head of sixth form, both the hardest and best job I've ever had in my life, and the biggest privilege is working with all the students who are here. Obviously, for year 13, some people choose not to attend this event, some people do, but I'm glad you've come and I hope you found it useful. And we're just going to give you a quick rundown of some of the information we think is useful in supporting the students as they go through year 13, which is an amazing but incredibly challenging year. In a minute, I'll introduce my two colleagues stood with me. So in terms of the sixth form team, just a quick update. Miss Green, head of sixth form, that's me. Both Mr. Shepherd and Mrs. Gossel are assistant heads of sixth form. Those of you who were here this time last year will realise the team's grown quite a lot. That's because the size of the sixth form has grown considerably over the last 2 years, which is a brilliant thing because it means we get more facilities, more resources. For example, we have the sixth form counsellor, or if that is possible because we have more numbers. Mrs. Wright is the sixth form administrator. You may well have contacted her about things like attendance. She's amazing. She knows everything. So if you have any logistical questions, she's the place to go. And then they don't have photos, unfortunately, but Miss Armitage is our wellbeing queen. She looks after the students. She's a non-teaching member of staff, so her whole day is spent in the study centre looking after the students, chatting to them, having one-to-ones with them. Mrs. Davis, academic mentor. Her job is to look after the students academically. So she has either one-to-ones or group sessions around things like exam anxiety. If the students are struggling with organisation or making effective notes or keeping their folders effectively or whatever, they can self-refer to have one-to-one appointments. One of the things Mrs. Davis does very well with year 13 students is accountability around revision. So if you know either you as a student or your child as a parent is going to be poor at holding themselves accountable to the amount of studying they need to do, then it would be great for them to have one-to-ones with Mrs. Davis. Each week she'll agree with them what they're going to study, and then a week later she'll see them again and ask them to show her that work to hold them accountable as they go through. That's very effective for some of our students who really want to study but find it difficult to motivate themselves given how long they've got until the exams. Laura Mitchell, some of you will have come across. She is our sixth form counsellor. She's amazing. For information, her waiting list at the moment is only a couple of weeks long. She is a fully qualified counsellor and is a specialist in the issues that students between the ages of 16 and 18 have. She's specialised in those age groups, and she's brilliant. If your child is on one of the forever waiting lists for mental health support on the NHS, I would strongly recommend seeing Laura in the interim because she will give them that immediate support. Both Miss Armitage and Mrs. Davis are here tonight. They have got some one-to-one appointments booked, but they're both available for a drop-in. So if you're sat there thinking, actually, I think my child would benefit from seeing one of them, do pop over and see them in T Block before you go home tonight. These are the mentors. Hopefully you have met your child's mentor. All of them are very, very experienced mentors. Now, obviously, SF15, there's a little bit of uncertainty around. Now, if your child is in SF15, you'll know that SF15 have been in some of the other mentor groups. That's because a member of staff has been really unwell, and we're hoping that he will be back soon. But for now, we're making sure those students are looked after. So they've been put in one of the other mentor groups so they have a really consistent experience. So timings of the day, you will notice that the timings of the day have changed. This is a shock to all of us. It's not actually the timings, it's the names of the lessons. So what was called mentor period is period 1, and they all shuffled up, as it were. The students absolutely know this. This is just for information, really. And then the last slide from me before I hand over to a colleague is just a quick talk about communication. In fact, not quite the last one for me. A quick talk about communication with parents. So it is very difficult communicating effectively as a school. You get feedback, you communicate too much, you get feedback, you communicate too little. We try to do it right, and if we get it wrong, I'm sorry, please do give us feedback because we do want to get it right. As much as possible, the main form of communication will be through the weekly bulletin. Now, we are aware that not everyone reads that in absolute detail every week. And so where there's something particularly urgent, we will send a separate email. So obviously we sent a couple of separate emails about tonight because we didn't want anyone to miss that. And the other thing to make clear is that at this stage, there will be some communication that goes through students only. Obviously, the students in year 13 are 17, 18 and can take some degree of responsibility. If that is a problem for your child, make sure we are aware so we can make sure that you don't miss anything. And of course, a lot of communication goes through Google Classroom. Right then, the last thing I'm going to say is that if your child, the students already know this, they've been told about it, but if your child would like to change their preferred pronouns, gender or name on the system, that is something we can do. It's very easy and shouldn't be a difficult process for them. If they speak to their mentor discreetly, we can make that happen almost instantly. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Shepherd.
Again, good evening everybody. Thanks again for attending. Some key dates up there on the screen. As Ms. Green did say, all of these key dates will be communicated to you via the weekly bulletin that Ms. Green sends out. Key things to note on there: we've got Meet the Mentor this evening, got Main School Open evening next week on the 28th, and I think we've got some students in here that may well be helping out on that. We really do appreciate that. Importantly, on the 30th of September, so next Friday, there is a personal statement draft deadline. We had a drop-down day, Newcastle Careers Day, we called it last year, and students were encouraged to write a draft of their personal statement on that particular day and work with mentors to make sure that was done. But this is the next stage of that next Friday, and it's quite important that there's a progression in what they did on the UCAS Day or the Careers Day up to the point on the Friday the 30th. And get that signed off with their mentor. We've got another round of in-class assessments coming up for 12 and 13 on the 16th and 23rd of October respectively. And then there is an online meeting, careers meeting, where Miss Green will cover some of the UCAS and careers and apprenticeship information that was covered on our drop-down UCAS day on that evening session as well. Is there anything else you want to add about that?
Can I just interrupt?
No.
Sorry, I know you
argument
can't
online
see the
about
chat, but we can't see the
I'll send out the
slides.
details nearer the time,
But
but
that's being
if you're
12.
interested, just keep the evening free.
Again, UCAS dates, talked about the personal statement draft that is due. And I know we've got students in here that are going to be early entries. So there's an internal deadline for the 9th of October for Miss Green to go over the internal entries. Students have already had meetings with Miss Green about that, and she will guide students through that particular process. And then the external deadline is the 15th of October, which is the following week. But it's important that things are ticked off and boxed off by that 9th in case there's any interventions that need to take place, any grades that might need to change, so that we can get everything done by the 15th. For students that aren't early entry, we've got another deadline for the personal statement draft, which is the 31st of October. And then to end the whole process, it's the final deadline, which is the 30th of November. I think we've got close on 200 applications this year. So to work on that and make sure things are followed from the draft perspectives and the key points and the deadlines that we've got there is very important. Of our students will have a tough time actually getting it in on the 30th of November. Anything that comes in after the 30th of November will be very difficult for us to check because we'll have gone through all the processes prior to that. That's me. Again, personal statement, they're really important. Predicted grades in relation to that will be published as a progress check at the start of next week, and there'll be an appeals process which will begin because we know some students won't necessarily be happy or they won't fit in with their aspirations that they have got in terms of what they want to apply for going through the UCAS processes.
So just a quick word on predicted grades for grade appeals, because this is something that people often want to know a lot about. The fact of the matter is, every year UCAS keep a close tab on what grades we predict and then what grades the students get. So it is a fact that if we over predict, we are making things very difficult for next year's cohort. Last year, we were very strict with outgoing year 13 to protect students here. And this sort of continues. So every year we need to be incredibly fair, but strict on predicted grades to look after the year after. So we cannot predict students a grade that we haven't seen evidence they're capable of Achieving, we are very fair. We take everything into account. If a student had a bad day on the day of one exam, it doesn't mean they can't get that predicted grade, but we do have to look at all the work they've done over the whole year and come up with a fair grade. These will be published next week. I can't tell you exactly which day. The deadline for staff to tell me those grades is tomorrow. So if they all meet that deadline, it'll be at the start of the week, but it will certainly be one day next week. Once that happens, the appeals window will open. Students will have 2 weeks to submit an evidence-based appeal. It's really important that must be evidence-based. We recognise that if the students did their exams back in July and realised that they hadn't done very well, they may well have studied hard over the summer. In fact, we spoke about this in several assemblies with them. They may well have studied hard over the summer to produce evidence. They need to submit an appeal with a covering letter and any evidence they believe shows they're capable of achieving the grade above, and then they'll get a response in writing. We try and do it within a week, but obviously we prioritise the early entry at this stage. Last year, about 25 grades were appealed and about 12 changed, so it is worth doing if you have the evidence. But the most important thing I would say is please think about whether your grade is fair, not whether it's the grade you wanted. If you feel that you have done work at a certain level and that the grade you've been given reflects that level, it's probably not going to change unless something very drastic has changed, for the reasons I've already explained. So I hope that's clear. I know that's a very sensitive and quite emotive topic, and if you want to talk about it, feel free to stay behind at the end, but that's where the school's position is. Mrs. Gossel.
Following on from that, that's going on. I know it sounds just it all sounds a lot, I know, especially for the students as well. I just want you to know that for us as a school and 14, the well-being of our students is the most vital aspects of their school life here. So yes, you've got all of these deadlines. Yes, there are all these expectations. However, without your mental health being in a positive zone, it's very difficult to achieve your best. So therefore, we've got the support available for the students. And as Ms. had said, we've got a dedicated counsellor, Ms. Laura Mitchell. We've got Ms. Armitage, who's a wellbeing officer, so they can go to them as well. But the first point of contact will be the mentor that we need to go and speak to, and then there's support in quite a large team. So I can't stress enough, without the pun intended, that well-being is really, really important for all of us. The thing that you really need to focus on in the autumn term, which is this term, is going the wrong way, am I? Oh, no, it's not gone. Anyways, if the autumn term is going to be most important one is the mock exams that are going to be happening. So that's the focus first, as well as the UCAS applications. So if you can just focus on that, there are short-term goals as well, because otherwise it all seems a bit too much in one goal. So for this term, that should be the focus, really. And that's it. It is the core values of Finham Park. This is something that I'm sure you've been seeing for a long time as well, but this is what our values are. So academics is brilliant, but this is what matters as well.
So now we're going to talk to you a little bit about the opportunities and the experiences students have in year 13. Now, obviously, in year 13, much more than year 12, the focus has got to be on study and on applications. Year 12 students often spend quite a bit of their time doing the sort of cool stuff that the sixth form offer, and then in year 13 to get their head down. But that doesn't mean those opportunities aren't available to them, and each student can make a choice about what they want to be doing. Now, as you know, we hold weekly talks. We've always called them period 6, and the changed timings of the day has rather ruined that. I haven't quite been prepared to give that name up, but I will at some point. So I've got period 6 in brackets. So far, we've already had 2 talks. The first week of term, we had an amazing talk from two tutors at Coventry University with opposing views on whether the organisation Just Stop Oil should be classified as terrorists. And it was really interesting watching. So they're writing books about it as we speak, and it's really interesting watching them debate. And then we've just had one about applying for medicine, dentistry or veterinary medicine. You can see the talks that are happening for the rest of this half term. We don't make any of this compulsory for year 13 students, but it is worth dipping in and out. If there's something they're interested in, students are all seeking things to put on their UCAS application. And actually, I maintain that learning for the love of learning is really important. So if there's something that interests the students, we do recommend they attend that talk. Wrong way. Mr. Swift.
Again, Ms. Green just made the point about students continuing seeking things on their UCAS application. And a really, really good thing to put on is enrichment and any opportunities that they've had or they've worked with or worked on themselves is really, really good. In terms of enrichment and opportunities that we can offer, on a Wednesday, we've got a programme which is last period, it used to be period 5, it's period 6 now, where we've got an enrichment programme that the students choose, unless they are in timetable lessons, they can choose an activity that they think they might enjoy. A lot of them have grown to enjoy these activities, which is a little bit away from the traditional curriculum activities. We've had sport enrichment, we've had DIY enrichment, we've had first aid, we've had board games, we've had book clubs. And some students actually run these activities themselves, which is amazing. The next one down, we've had someone in this room that has supported, and a lot of this stuff we talk about is independence and independent learning, and sort of independent guidance of themselves. And we've had a student in here that has helped to set up a debating team, and has taken some young Key Stage 3 students out to another school, and led a team in a debating competition, and that really, really enriched their experiences and also the students lower down the school, and that's great to have on a UCAS application. I would encourage, that's the kind of thing that I'm passionate about, anybody that does have any ideas or anything that they want to do, any clubs that they like to run, anything they'd like to lead, to come and see me, and there's still time, unless you're early applicant, to get that on your UCAS application. And like Ms. Green said, again, it can really, really add value to that particular application if a student wants to go in a related direction. We've got student-led sport. We had a group of students last year that worked together to put on a football tournament, a mat tournament with Meadow Park, with Ling Hall, and with Finham Park 2, and that took place here. All student-led. I got roped into refereeing a few games, so that was it, and that was really great. We've had a student council. We've got Young Enterprise, which is running in the Wednesday period 6 slot as well. And we've had also students that have done that off their own back and entered competitions. Again, great, great stuff to enrich any kind of application that students are putting forward or putting in place for their next steps. Again, at the bottom, we've got student-led activities. I am open to any suggestions based on that. Work shadowing. All of the students in here will have gone through that at the back end of last year, but there are still opportunities, and if a student would like to take an opportunity that they have been given, or would like to seek out an opportunity to continue to look at a work shadowing placement or continue to work with an organisation that they think will benefit them going forwards, provided it's appropriate, we think it's appropriate, we can authorise that. And we've got instances of some students that are working with banking and finance and solicitors, and they go out on their study periods, and we can facilitate that if we think it's valuable and if we can authorise that. Careers. There is a careers Google Classroom. Lots and lots of stuff does go on that classroom. A lot of the UCAS stuff that we did at the back end of last year, and the things that are put in place through the Learning Mentor programme that I'll talk about in a minute will go on that careers classroom, and that could encompass things like UCAS, personal statement writing, any university open days, apprenticeship opportunities, any early application to medicine, Oxbridge events that are taking place will generally go on that careers Google Classroom for any students to access, and then look to come and see us to take opportunities and to take advantage of that. We do put on a careers fair, which is open to year 12 and 13, and that was at the back end of last year, but students will have the opportunity to do that again, because we do get students that we don't place through UCAS, and obviously with an opportunity at the careers fair towards the end of the year for them to seek maybe apprenticeships or to look at any other avenues in terms of employment. And we are very, very lucky to have a designated careers advisor, and any students that we have in year 12 or year 13 can make an appointment with Ms. Hook, as well as talking to us about what they might want to do. Independent learning, Ms. Gossel.
So as I said, there's plenty going on with, it's the bottom one, yes, okay. Plenty of support with careers, and there's plenty of support for revision as well, which is obviously not becoming an important aspect for students. We have gone through this with our students, and we will be doing that throughout the year. And as mentioned before, we've got Ms. Davis also to help them out with revision and how to use different techniques that might work for them. Just a couple of things of using actually.
Skip that, I'll come back to that, Miss.
Yeah. Okay. Just a couple of things how you could help students at home, your child at home, is just going through their notes, because sometimes they're just not legible, and just simple things like that to rewrite your notes and not just copy them, because that's just copying. It's not going to stay. It's about reading your own notes and then making nice legible notes in your own words, and that just helps with revision as well. So if you could support and help with that, that would really ensure that they are going through the content again and again, really. Highlight key points, summarize. This was done in the personal development period 1. In fact, that was done today, if I'm right, Mr. Shepherd,
Yeah.
where we are guiding them how to actually take down notes, how to make them so that they can actually access them and remember them. And those were the Cornell notes that we have done a session on today. So that will be definitely useful for the students as well. Making connections. Now for year 13 and A level, connections are really important. So we can't actually look at topics separately and individually. Students have to make those connections to develop their answers. And that's why it's really important to first learn the content. And then in year 13, it's making those connections from what you learned in year 12 and what you learned in year 13, so you can incorporate all of that in your answers. Background reading. I can't tell you how important this is for your UCAS applications as well, because your background reading that you do around your subject area shows your passion for the subject. It shows that you're actually mastering the subject that you've taken and you are interested in that. Therefore, that background reading is really important, and it will help to make the answers more sophisticated, A-level style answers rather than GCSE standard. And that's what kind of shifts the grades from one to the other, is through that background reading, that extended reading that you will do. And most subjects hopefully have given you a reading list, which should all be in the classroom. And that again is something that students can look at as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to skip back to this different order to period 1. The stuff that Miss Costa was just talked about, the cycle of independent learning, that's vital for the students. Vital for the students to grasp it, vital for the students to understand, because that can support their learning in non-contact teaching time. All of that kind of stuff, the study skills, takes place in our period 1 sessions. We've changed it. We've changed the name of it. It used to be called Learning Mentor Time. It's now called Period 1. And it's quite a comprehensive programme that does go on in Period 1 sessions. Period 1 sessions have been extended from 15 minutes to 30 minutes so that we can give students a lot more guidance during those sessions. And we do cover, like we talked about, careers. A lot of the UCAS guidance does take place in Period 1 sessions. So it's vital that students can access that. How to write personal statements, what to include in the personal statements, how to fill in your UCAS form, any support from mentors, like I alluded to earlier, in terms of the support with the drafts, the personal statement drafts, takes place in the period 1 sessions. The stuff that we have to cover, the religious studies aspects of things, we do cover a comprehensive aspects of PSHRE, where we look at health and safety, we look at keeping safe, we look at drugs education, sex education, and a lot of things that we think are pertinent to students of this particular age group as well. Already alluded to the study skills, the session this morning, Year 12 did Cornell note taking, Year 13s have recapped the cycle of independent learning. Learning mentors should have that on their Google Classroom. And for any that haven't, students have got access to it in the study centre. It is always there for the students to use and for the students to access. Life skills are covered, and we've got a programme where every Wednesday there's an assembly on current affairs as well. And that is our period 1 programme. It is comprehensive. A lot of things do take place in that particular session. That's why we put it at the start of the day. And our learning mentors are brilliant at delivering that and brilliant at the support that they give. So I will skip on to expectations, Miss Green.
Thank you. Just to finish off, I appreciate we've been talking through this. So this is the last bit. I'm not going to spend much time talking about expectations because the students know what they are. We try and treat students like adults because actually most of the students in this room actually are adults. And if they're not adults now, they will be in the next couple of months. Indeed, you will find universities won't have conversations with you. They'll only have conversations with the students. But we do find occasionally students make mistakes and behave in ways that are not adult. For example, we had a bit of extra litter the other day and we had to have an assembly with the students where we did not treat them like adults because obviously for the benefit of the environment, that just can't happen. So I'm not going to read all of these out, but obviously we have to have expectations. All I would ask you to do is to support us. Those expectations are to keep everyone safe, to prepare students for the world of work. Students often are unhappy with the fact we don't like them being late, but I would level that they're not going to be able to be late to work. So actually it's important that they get into those habits at this stage. And I would ask that you support us in reinforcing that students shouldn't be wearing things like hoodies, trainers, crop tops. Obviously, they're not appropriate. This is a school and we have a business dress code. Students all knew that when they chose to come to Finner Park, and so please do support us with that. In terms of what you can expect from us this year, this is what we hope to do. And I would say if we get it wrong, please let us know. We try so hard to get things right for the students. We genuinely do. All of us work hours and hours every week. The mentors work hours and hours every week. And so if we get something wrong, it's not because we're intending to, it's because we just haven't realised. We really welcome feedback from you. This is what we want to provide for students. We want to make them feel part of the Finner family. We want them to get good quality lessons, to feel like they're supported, to get great career support. And if you feel like that's not happening, please just talk to us and we'll make sure it does. So just to finish off, the last thing that's really important is do consider whether you might be eligible for the bursary. If your family income is below a certain amount, and you can find all the details if you Google post-16 bursary, all the numbers are there, then students are eligible for the bursary. That means Finner Park will get money to buy them specific things. That could be a laptop, it could be business wear, textbooks, going to conferences, whatever it might be. They have to be school related things. It can't become beer money, but it is absolutely worth applying for. If you think your child might be eligible, we can pay for music lessons, we can pay for things like transport to get them to open days, anything like that. So absolutely worth thinking about. Right, I'm going to finish there. We will be around. Obviously, Year 12 parents will be heading in just 1 second. But if you do have any pressing questions, either grab us now or feel free to contact us by email. Hopefully, you've got all of our contact details. And thank you. Your children are a joy. Thank you so much. Hello. Right, so I'm going to get the Year 12 one on.